Hello everyone and welcome to a really wild game from the WR Masters Cup between Praggnanandhaa and Viswanathan Anand. And the two classical games they played prior to this one ended in a draw, and we said in the previous video regarding this tournament, if the two classical games end in a draw, then we go into Armageddon, where time is not fixed, rather you bid for time, and whoever bids the lowest gets the black pieces. And you know that in Armageddon, you only need a draw with black to win the game. So Anand only needs a draw, and Pragg needs to win. And what happened in the classical section, well, it was a pretty drawish match, but both of them were pushing for the win with the black pieces. First, Anand was the one pushing for the win with black. Pragg managed to equalize, or rather to draw, and then Anand was the one fighting for the draw, even though it was, like I said, equalish most of the time. You know, one game Anand was pushing and the other Pragg was pushing. But now we are in Armageddon, and well, as you know, no one outbids the Lightning Kid. Back in the ever since Anand won, I believe, the World Junior Championship in 1987, interestingly, the year I was born, he was nicknamed the Lightning Kid. I don't know the exact instance they named him that, but yeah, I mean, he was just so fast, no one could even believe it. And of course, Pragg was not able to outbid Anand. Anand bid, well, we have to see the first move, pawn to e4, pawn to e5. Anand bid 6 minutes and 13 seconds. So he says, 6 minutes and 13 seconds is enough for me to play a game against you, young sir. Let's see what you can produce. And okay, Pragg goes knight f3, we have knight to c6, and Pragg strikes with the Scotch, pawn to d4. Anand, of course, accepts, e captures on d4, knight captures on d4, and Anand decides to mix it up. Here, the standard reply is bishop to c5, you attack the knight, then queen to c6, or even something like bishop to c5, knight captures, and queen to f6, if you guys remember the famous throbbing game. But here, after knight captures on d4, Anand played queen to f6. This is the fifth most popular continuation, and it is fairly rare. As, like I said, mostly just or okay, maybe bishop to queen to f6 is still playable, but what comes next, well, bishop to e3 and knight captures on c6 are the two most common moves, but Pragg moves the knight back, knight to d2, and this is almost never played. So here Pragg is saying, all right, you got the black pieces, a draw is enough for you, but you have 6 minutes on the clock, and I'm pretty sure you never faced knight to e2 over the board. And okay, in the database, Anand did not face it. Whether he, researched it alone, I have no idea. But let's see how he continues. Bishop to c5. It's a pretty straightforward move. I mean, you're threatening queen captures on f2. So knight to f4 by Pragg. And now, okay, if you play pawn to g5, looks like Pragg is just blundering the game, but not really. He can play knight d3, defend f2, and attack the bishop, and now he's perfectly fine. So Anand plays pawn to d6. Other moves that have been played here are and knight gt7, also knight to e5, but after pawn to d6, it is now already as of move 6 that we have a completely new game. So okay, Pragg continues, knight c3, we have knight g to e7, and bishop to e2. We have bishop to b4, offering a trade of, well, preparing to trade. We have castles, and Anand plays bishop captures on c3. So he gives up the bishop pair early on, but he says, I mean, I only need a draw and I win the match, I don't have to push for anything. We have castles and rook to b1. But it's not that easy for Anand to make moves, as, yeah, like I said, Pragg is the one now with the bishop pair. He has the semi-open b file, so you could play probably something like b6. But you know that bishop is coming to d3. That knight will move, pawn to f4, pawn to e5 will be played. The bishop comes alive, maybe some queen to h6 action, maybe the rook somehow comes into the game. So those are all ideas that Anand will have to tackle throughout the game, as he already basically announced that he is playing this for a draw. We have queen to e5, bishop to d3, and now pawn to a6. We have pawn to c4 by Pragg, grabbing firm control over the d5 square, and also freeing up this diagonal. Once the bishop comes to b2, it will become a mighty dragon. Now, yeah, okay, you could say that white's dark square bishop is not a dragon, black's dark square bishop is a dragon, but we don't have a cool name for white's dark square bishop. If you guys have any, I would very happily use it. Like, we could call it the Hydra or something. But yeah. You know what I mean. Bishop to b2 is the plan. So pawn to f5 by Anand. It's hard to find a move. You know that bishop to b2 is coming. You play maybe something like queen to c5 or queen to a5. Anand decides to go all out with pawn to f5. And okay, first I guess he decided that he will, play a calm game. He gave up the bishop pair. He's fighting for a draw, but now with f5, it's already, a very, very different game. Pragg plays e captures on f5, and now Anand doesn't recapture. Probably because if you capture, then rook e1 attacks the queen, and once the queen moves, rook captures on b7, threatening rook captures on c7. It doesn't look all that great. So Anand first plays queen back to f6, probably with the idea that if knight h5, queen to f7, even though this is also perfectly fine for Pragg, but Pragg just plays pawn to g4 and says, thank you for the pawn, what are you playing next? And okay, pawn to g6, he's going after the white king as well. And Pragg goes knight to d5. Very interesting maneuver here is pawn to c5. I'll just show it because that's why we make these videos, to show cool lines. And the bishop can now come to this diagonal. And if pawn to d5 closing it, now you play knight captures on d5. A temporary piece sacrifice, and after knight captures, bishop c4. And here black will slowly but surely fall apart. But okay, Pragg goes for knight to d5 right away. We have knight captures by Vichy, c captures, and now knight to e5 and pawn to f4, hoping for some knight captures on d3 action to improve his position. Knight captures on d3, queen captures, and now g captures on f5. And it seems that Anand solves all of his problems, because now if you capture, then bishop captures on f5, comes with an attack on the queen. You also get the g file for the attack. You also have time to defend your b7 pawn if needed. But Pragg had something else in mind, and I'm sure you guys already know what it is. Bishop to b2 or pawn to g5, both are perfectly fine. Pragg decided to go for pawn to g5 right away. And now Anand plays queen to g6, and the dragon or the hydra comes alive. Bishop to b2. And now look at this. Yes, Pragg no longer has the bishop pair. He doesn't have the light square bishop, but look at this incredible dark square bishop now with very little for Anand to do. The queen is coming to c3. How is Anand to defend this? He plays bishop to d7, as now the rook is no longer attacking b7. But even if it was, Pragg would probably just go after the black king. Queen c3. We have pawn to c5, and now we have, well, you could give a check right away, but it doesn't do all that much, because after king f7, what's your next move with the queen? You could trade queens or you could go back, so it doesn't really do all that much. But rook to f3 does a whole lot. We have pawn to h5, hoping that the h file remains closed, but rook to h3. And it seems like, okay, what is Pragg doing? The h pawn is defended, but it's really not. King f7. You have to play this, but now rook captures on h5. That was the real threat in every line, because even without king to f7, the threat is just rook captures on h5, queen captures, and queen to g7 checkmate. So by playing king f7, Anand is trying to stop rook captures on h5, so the king can hopefully escape to the queen side, but Pragg shows it doesn't work. Rook captures on h5. And now if you capture it, it's a really, really cool mate in 6. Queen to f6 check, king to e8. Rook to e1 with check. You cannot go anywhere with the king, so you have to block with the bishop. Rook captures or queen captures. Rook captures is even faster. King to d7, rook to e7 with check. King to c8, queen captures with check. You have to block with the queen, and queen captures on e8 will be checkmate. So after rook captures on h5, rook to g8 by Vichy, and now Pragg could play all sorts of moves. He could first cut off the king from d file with rook e1. He could play rook to h6. He could play rook to h7 check. He could play any of these moves, but he played king to f2, and he was in this position on move 26 that Viswanathan Anand resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So Pragg prevails. He takes down the lightning kid when Anand only needed a draw. Absolute masterpiece. And the reason for that is that Anand is without a move. Point being that if you capture the rook, the idea is, of course, queen to f6 check. I will show it because it's a really cool line. Rook to e1 check, bishop to e6, your only move. You can capture with the rook, king to d7, rook to e7 check. Now you go to c8, and now queen to e6 with check. King to b8, and now you start capturing. Queen captures with check, king a7, queen captures with check. Only move king b8, and now the hydra, comes in for a nice checkmate. Bishop to e5. And if you don't play that after king to f2, okay, you don't have to capture it, but what are you playing? Like rook 8 to e8, then comes rook to h7 check. A beautiful rook sacrifice that if you capture, then of course it's mate in 1, queen queen to f6 is checkmate. Yes, you have all of these pieces next to you, but they're really not helping in any way. I could even use this as a thumbnail, even though it hasn't really happened. Let me just, or maybe not. Yeah, I'll think about it. It's a nice thumbnail. You know, we'll figure it out. And of course, if king to f8, then a nice rook to h6, rook to h6, and there's no way to defend. Queen f7, rook to f6 will win the black queen, and that's it. So yeah, beautiful game. Thank you guys for suggesting this one. We're gonna check out some other games from the WR ChessMasters Cup, and as Praggnanandhaa has defeated Anand, Prag's next opponent is Arjun Erigaisi. They are currently playing, so I will keep you guys informed on what happens there. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Ranko Djugashovic, Ivan Sterling, Jost van Werd, Gianpolo Londono, and BulletChessThriller.com for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.